Okay, welcome Breck Film Fest and everybody at home. We are here for the Q&A with Lou Gossett Jr. Hopefully you enjoyed the Cuban. And Lou, thank you very much. I think I speak for everybody for saying we are so pleased, so happy to have you here, even if it's got to be virtual this year.
Well, most of the things are virtual these days. So we're doing normal stuff these days.
Right? We're getting used to this whole virtual thing and we're unmuted. So we're already doing better than we could have been.
Heaven is being virtual and unmuted.
Exactly.
That's happened these days.
Well, Lou, before we get into the movie, I had to ask you something. So this summer, obviously here in Colorado and across the West, we've been dealing with some wildfire haze every single day. And I understand that you had some experience, what, with wildfire 2018?
Oh, yeah. Well, I moved to Atlanta a year ago, a
Mm-hmm.
little under a year ago. And I had that place and I got it at a bargain 20 years before that. And the big developers wanted to get me and a couple of friends out of there, me and Nick Nolte and other people. And we held on to this property because we bought it for very little. And they would do subtle things to get us to force to get us to be put out. So finally I got tired. I said, okay. So I sold the place and I got a nice little piece of change with it. My son and his son was in a guest house. I got all the stuff that belonged to me, including writings on the wall. Took all my belongings out of there and moved to Atlanta to a condo. 10 days later, the entire house burnt down. So that's dodging a bullet. So,
The definition, yeah.
and some other people's houses burnt down. Nobody died, nobody got hurt.
Yeah.
And so the people who bought a house, they have to rebuild.
Yeah.
Now I'm in my new home here in right outside of the airport, 10 times the size, half as expensive. And I've got room to breathe. And my dogs I can't let them run because there'll be breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But there's a lot of oxygen here. So you never know. You never know what moves you make. This is a good move.
But a good move, good place for you to be right now in Atlanta. And
Honestly, yeah.
fantastic. But you're a New York boy. You grew up in Brooklyn, and we were talking a little bit before we all got live here about your background in Brooklyn. Tell us about growing up as a young aspiring actor in Brooklyn.
Well, I was never a young aspiring actor in Brooklyn. I was a young aspiring somebody in Brooklyn. But the neighborhood was full of the people that created the actors studio and the actors group, the John Garfields, and people ran uh, I guess it was called the blacklist at the time, but it was really a labor movement right after the Depression. You had the two little bankheads and the John Garfields and people like that. So, and then there's professors in universities, the intellectual cream of the crop of America. So they're trying to get them to leave the country because they started their intelligence in Europe. And they came to a sympathetic board of education in New York City. They changed their names and they were sent to Brooklyn. And they became my teachers, my Spanish teacher, my English teacher, etc. And my English teacher was a man by the name of Gustav Blumberg, very famous European theater man. He'd come in with a beret and the trades. So he had never seen me act, but he saw in the trades that they were looking for a young kid to play a lead in a Broadway show. This is 1952. He said, I know you never acted. Well, why don't you tell your mother to take you down there? What can you lose? Got the part. So everything was reversed. I was taught how to act after I got the part.
And here you are.
Here I am. That's the history.
Yeah.
So I was thrown almost like lightning in a bottle into something I didn't know I knew, but I took to it very quickly.
Beautiful. Yeah. And like you said, something you didn't know you knew, one of those things that tapping into a secret well of talent and just intuition that you probably
Yeah,
developed over time.
it works like a charm. It works like a charm. So I think we all have some element of that in us. And maybe there's some kind of exercise, some kind of meditation, something for us to find why we're on the planet and what we're on the planet to do. Some are great mathematicians, some are great athletes, some of are linguists, whatever it is. If you find it, then your life is really pretty glorious. So I got lucky. I hit the lottery, if you want to call it that. I haven't worked a day in my life, over 60 years.
Well, and I feel like we've all hit the lottery too by having the pleasure of watching you in this long career that you've had, and most recently in the Cuban. So I hope everybody enjoyed the film. First thing that hit me in this movie was the music. Are you a
Yeah,
jazz fan? Are you a fan of music?
much so, very much a jazz fan. during my high school area, our number one music was Afro-Cuban. So during the proms and stuff, we had contests, the merengue contest and the cha-cha-cha. And our heroes were Tito Rodriguez and Tito Puente, Machito, and Willie Bobo. We knew all of that. We were experts. We win all the dance contests. It's very funny to have a multicultural bunch of people dancing Afro-Cuban music and loving it, and knowing the words and Spanish. We didn't know what we were saying in Spanish, but we did. You know, it's a very full kind of childhood. So we're pretty diverse as children because of our parents and because of the political climate. We really enjoyed each other. Some of those people are still alive are my friends today. Of
Well,
all that, yeah.
yeah, and like you were saying, the music too. It seems like music can be one of those things that brings people together, brings out emotions, and even as we see in this movie, it can have an impact on entirely different generations of people.
Mm.
It's such a touching movie that's got lots of heart, lots of feeling, and I feel like it all ties back to that music. And I love the way that it talks about music helping somebody rediscover their past self, somebody with dementia, somebody who is going through, you know, neurological disorders. How did you prepare for this role, for the life of a former musician who's brought back to life by music?
I had to look at Awakenings because I respect Robert De Niro and he did it perfectly. So I got some insight of that thing in me that I could use in this movie was DNA memory, if you want to call it that. To remember what turns this character on, and I have that in me, that element in me that turns me on. And thank God, I love the food, I love the music, and it was a no-brainer, you know. So when the food started hitting my nostrils, and you study in the actor studio, it's sense memory they call it, and you say, oh, and you come to life, and then you hear something familiar, and the sense memory hits you. You start moving, just like an actor's exercise. So by the time we get to the good food and the good music, I'm waking on up there. And so then you have something to do with, you have fuel to do your performance. And that kind of rest takes over, it takes care of itself.
Yeah, and to be honest, that was one of my favorite moments in this film is the moment he tries papas fritas again. When she brings him that home cooked papas fritas and the look on your face, it's I see exactly what you're talking about right now. That the click, the
You know, I do the same thing when I came to Georgia and I tasted original Southern fried chicken. You know, so my grandfather used to say, "Good God in the quarter, that tastes good."
Oh yeah, and all those little touches, you know, you bring it to this film. How did the Cuban end up on your radar? This is from a listener, Trudy. How did you get involved with this movie?
This young director and this lady who created the package followed me across America. I said, they must be really serious. Let me sit down and give them a minute. And they showed me what they had, and they caught me. They incorporated. They had no money. They wanted me to join them. So I joined them. It's not a moment of fright or anything. I just joined them because I liked them, the director and then the superstar. And slowly, before you know it, I'm on a set. And we go. No money, but some very enthusiastic people. And the rest is history.
Almost like the start of your acting career. Lightning in a bottle.
Lightning in a bottle, brother. Lightning in a bottle.
So like you said, they didn't have much money. Talk about the shoot. How did the shoot go? You know, we were working with folks that were, you know, doing this bootstrap style.
Well, we did it again. All of us got together and did it for love because we liked the story. I never got back to Cuba, but I got to Cuba before that by coming by way of the Bahamas, which is part of my roots.
Mm-hmm.
But, everybody loved what they were doing. So when you get a company of a camera lady and a musician and a director and actors all loving what they do, there's no work involved. It's a lovely day.
Yeah, and of course we got to talk about your counterpart in this film, Anna Golja, playing Mina. You two have great chemistry, great rapport back and forth. Tell me about working with her.
But she's a marvel. She's only just begun. That's Judy Garland. She sings, she dances, she acts, she writes music. She's a monster. She's about to be born. Watch her. She's going to take over. She's fantastic.
Keep your eyes on her. Yeah, keep your eyes on her. And so, like you said, she sings. She is the one singing the
Like a bird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very proud to work with her and to be there in the beginning and have a positive influence on her. She's, I wish I was younger, but no, I'm grandpa. Yeah, but it's nice.
Yeah, you sound like your character right now. I love the other moments when he, as his memory starts coming back, he especially says, oh, I'm forgetting the exact line, but she sees the newspaper article where he sees himself over again. He says, handsome, huh?
And then she becomes his old fiance when
Yes.
he's going through his delusional thing. And he literally falls in love with her as if he is still young too. It was wonderful. It's like eating a nice beefsteak or something. Be able to
Mhm.
play those characters as an actor. It was
Yes.
wonderful.
Now, at any moments when you were filming, obviously, trying to tap into state of mind, neurological disorders, things that you personally don't have, can be difficult. Were there any moments that you thought maybe I'm going too hard into it, or maybe I'm not going hard enough? Were there times that you had to?
There were times that I had to hit and miss and rely on the director to say more or less.
Okay.
So, and the camera person. So we kind of were like one bunch of people, a little bit more here, a little bit longer there, a little softer, a little harder, but you're on the right track. And so together we came up with our performances. And what size lens depends on what size moment we make. So it's a nice creative experience with the whole family.
Okay. Did you personally learn anything about dementia, Alzheimer's, the nursing home culture while shooting this film?
Yes, yes, I did. I now realize, and I kind of I felt it before. Uh, there's something connected with the healing of people with those old age diseases. There's more than medicine healing. There's some kind of invisible DNA healing that helps, along with the medicine and exercise and music and food and TLC, tender loving care. It's a
Mm.
combination of all of that that brings somebody back to reality. And it's
Okay.
very nice to see. Great
Yeah.
healing.
And were all those elements in the script to begin with? When you first read the script, were all of these character elements in there, or did the character change, develop, dialogue change even as you were going?
Yes, we changed. Me and the director. He saw moments during the rehearsals. And he said, "Let's do some more of that because now we're learning something about healing." And so he took a scene out of the De Niro movie, and it happened there. It happened more in the Cuban. And so we come up with the conclusion. We did it in an old age home in Canada, and over 80% of those elders were totally involved.
Really?
Yeah, and when the film was over, I came out. Some of them went into tears and they got hugs because they took it personally. They wanted
Wow.
to be. They wanted to happen to them what happened to me on that screen,
Mm.
and they miss being responsible and feeling and stuff. So something about that treatment, other than medicine and tender loving care, something about healing might have to do with more than medicine.
Mm.
Just might.
And this film, obviously, part of it is that great story that Louis has, but the other part of it is a little bit of that the different sides of care, the different sides of what happens as we age. But the other part of it is, of course, Mina's story, the world of expectation, and the fact that she's growing up with expectations that she has to meet that aren't necessarily hers. So it almost reminds me. I wanted to ask you, what was expected of you, as a young black man in Brooklyn pursuing this dream that you didn't even know that you had? What was expected?
Was expected of me to rise to and be an example to others and how that is possible, especially young black men. We're such a diverse society that I could be the Jackie Robinson of the society, if you want to call it that. Because I looked up to Jackie Robinson and Sugar Ray Robinson and people like that. So there's a connective tissue of aspirations of being better than what we are. And that comes out of Europe when there's a complete combination of cultures living together successfully. Out of that combination came the actor studio, Broadway, comes out of Europe, early movies where Marlon Brando and those guys were born. And then it transferred into California for a while, and then it got interrupted with commercialism. But I grew up in that society, straight out of old Europe, where all the theater and all the film started. And they reached their hand out and they taught me on a daily basis. And some of those people who are still alive are my friends today. I'm very grateful. If it had not been for them, I don't know what I'd be doing.
And these days, what do you think is expected of up and coming Black actors or any actor of ethnicity in the film industry now? What expectations do they face that that maybe you didn't face, or new challenges that they have?
It's a brand new ballgame. So I can tell them a couple of things as an elder, and that's from the old rules. Whatever you do is for the benefit of the entire family, the entire team. So any subject you come up with, you have a duty at every age to do it to service your entire group. And that's old rules. And that's why we're successful and last that long. Because the first thing, and it's instinctive, is to make your own bed, to go get some food, to hug somebody, to feed somebody, to nurture somebody before you think about yourself. Mm. The whole family flourishes. So that, if it wasn't for those rules, I don't know where I would be. And especially surprises.
Yeah, and those rules these days, we got to talk a little bit about your shirt, racism. Do those same rules of duty to a family, of duty to others other than yourself, how does that fit into to what you're wearing today?
Well, that's my foundation, and it was very unpopular some 15 years ago when I started. But still, once again, it comes from my childhood. So if I came home and my parents were not home for dinner, I'd go upstairs and get some lasagna. I'll go around the corner and get some corned beef and cabbage. Go get some tuna fish. Go get some gefilte fish. And get some salted mackerel. I could get all kinds of stuff. It depends on who was home. And if their parents were home, they could come and have some fried chicken and some cabbage and stuff from my garden. Mm-hmm. And we took very good care of one another. So it was a society that gave birth to Jackie Robinson and other things. That's a great society. So now my foundation echoes what's on my T-shirt. Can you see the T-shirt?
Everybody see the T-shirt? Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So and that's America. That's what America should be. That's it. That's the promise, anyway.
It's the promise, and right now, especially this year, turbulence. It's been a very turbulent years. I guess the best word that I can think of. So, tell me, your thoughts on recent protests, or even what's happening this very day in Louisville, Kentucky. What role does protest and activism and getting out in the streets, play when it comes to capturing that America that you believe in?
Well, that's the America that was promised by our forefathers. I'm not sure they had that vision, that image, but they wrote it: one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. But we haven't gotten there yet. We're kind of a young culture, if you want to compare us to the British culture or the French culture or the Spanish culture. So we have to take a chill pill a little bit and look at what those forefathers wrote. Why they wrote them, I'm not sure, but they wrote them. And we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and they're endowed with certain human rights, etc. So now we're maybe about 12 years old as far as maturity is concerned. We're still growing up. And I think we should just take a deep breath, follow that Pledge of Allegiance, follow those Declaration of Independence. We'll go in the right direction as long as it would take, but have that in mind as we go, as we live on a daily basis. So those people who are demonstrating are not just Black or minorities anymore. It's young Americans of all kinds. It's in sports. Look at that in sports. It's amazing. From 1 year when Colin Kaepernick went on his knee, now everybody's on their knees. Mm-hmm. They're catching growing mentality, which is a positive note for you younger people. I'm very proud of all of you, and I encourage you to do more of the same so we can get to one people, or one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's what we're supposed to stand for.
And growing pains. Like you said, we're going through growing pains. We're 12 years old. It's
absolutely, yeah. So we're still growing. There's a lot of room to grow. So we should grow in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And those atrocities that get us angry, they're going to go away. Because we're going to run things. We're taking over. Back over, if you want, maybe for the first time. You're doing right. I'm very relaxed to watch the encouragement in sports and in movies to see who's doing what and when and why. It's very exciting. I know what it used to look like. Those riots we used to do, the lynchings and the riots. That's not happening anymore.
Yeah, yeah, you grew up in the thick of the civil rights movement. Yeah, the comparison between then and now, like you said, you feel hopeful now.
Like I'm visiting, I'm looking at the demonstrations in the town square of every city, and it's diverse, very exciting.
Yeah, yeah, and I would say even here in Summit County, Colorado, Ski Town, Colorado, where sometimes they tell us that we live in a bubble, just the white bread bubble. We are seeing the same thing. People are coming out and demonstrating in solidarity, saying that there's a large Hispanic population here too that is also starting.
There's only one answer. We need each other for our mutual salvation. So the sooner we get there, the better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now, when you see your role as an actor, obviously a public figure, somebody who's got some heft. How do you use that, that role as an actor, as a public figure, as somebody that people have known and seen on screen for decades, to push that movement forward?
Well, I grew up. I went to New York University, and the campus of New York University is Greenwich Village. So I slipped into the Bob Dylan, Mama Cass, Joan Baez society. So I learned early on the Mamas and the Papas and Peter, Paul, and Mary. Their political bent was they were called the hippies or whatever you want to call it. But that philosophy was the one I was very comfortable with. I wrote a song, and I just did some folk music with a man by the name of Felix Pappalardi, and we opened for the Kingston Trio. That's a piece of trivia. But I wrote a song, and I got a series in California called The Young Rebels. So I was doing that because I had to pay the rent, right? So I gave the song to Richie Havens. I come to California, and the series flops. Now the guy where I'm laying, he's putting me out because I can't pay the rent. That very same day, the mailman comes, another out of work actor. And on the top was a residual check from Union Music of over $65,000. But Richie sang the song, first song sung in Woodstock. It was on his album. It was close to $65,000, a song called Handsome Johnny, an anti-war song. So the people I used to run the hootenanny with, if you know that name, when you invite people up to sing, I shared that with Paul Stuckey from Peter, Paul, and Mary. Mm-hmm. And Richie Havens came, and I gave him the song when I left that place. And then, of course, through that came Judy Hensky and Joan Baez and all of those great people, Bobby Zimmerman, Bob Dylan, and all those particular people. And we passed the basket. And now look what's happening with all those great people. John Sebastian Jr., Mary Travers, John Phillips, Judy Hensky, some great people came out of there. Belafonte, and we had a little area, about 8 blocks square, and we kind of changed the world with our anti-war songs and our thoughts of rebellion and love and stuff. And it sticks to you because it's right. When it's right, it sticks to you. The society has never been the same.
Handsome Johnny now.
Mm-hmm. Hey, look, young, tell me what's that you see? Marching from the fields of Concord. Looks like Handsome Johnny with a flintlock in his hand. Marching to the Concord War. Marching to the Concord War. It's a long, hard road. Long, hard road. Long, hard road. Before we'll be free. And at the other end, it's, what's the use of singing this song? Some of you are not even listening. What do we have to do to end the song? Wait for our fields to start glistening. Wait for our fields to start glistening. It's a long, hard road. And then so it goes. So
we're listening here, Lou. I love it. I love it. It's great.
I'm returning back to that music too. So I'm blowing the dust off the guitar.
Oh, great. Guitar? Are you a guitar player then?
I play a little folk guitar, and I'm writing some more songs. I'm at that age. I have time to write. I have time to hum songs and learn. My companion is my guitar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Great. Well, now this is another question coming from Janice. Speak a little bit to racism. So describe what you've seen over the years, specifically in the film industry, and when it comes to the role race plays in getting jobs, getting roles, getting picked over. Where was it when you started? And how have you seen it progress or change or even degress over time?
I've seen it change with the education of the audience who buys the tickets to see the movies. So when it moved from New York to California, it made a transition because the David Susskind movies and the omnibus movies and the early stuff was very equal racially because the people who watched it and bought those products came out of New York and the East Coast. Slowly, excuse me, as it moved to West, you came to the uh, the people whose parents or whose relatives worked in the factories for World War II, and they came out of the Oklahoma dust, the Texas places, and Louisiana and Mississippi, and they didn't know anything about integration. So when I came out in '66, I went right in the middle from that village thing
Mhm.
to those policemen, and they got very upset. What's wrong with this picture? Why are you acting like that? They handcuffed me to trees, did all kinds of stuff, but you couldn't change my mind that the way I was raised as a child is the way we all should live. We help one another, and that's the key success of America and probably the rest of the world. And that's so wherever, however we get there, we got to get there because there's only one answer left.
Yeah.
You know, so that's it. So I'm going to write some music about it. Hey, look at young.
Oh, and we will be waiting and waiting for that music to come out. Now,
Don't throw no tomatoes.
oh, well, yeah, like I said, I loved hearing you sing. And obviously, again, going back to this movie, the music just makes
Oh,
it what it is. Any particular songs that you really enjoyed from this movie, or any songs that you think that you wish that you would have had?
ustedes de la fiesta tienen que bailar conmigo. All
Hmm.
the women at the party want to dance with me. It was wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think that was my favorite tune too. Yeah, that was my favorite as well.
and that's a great musician that wrote the music. We spent some time together. So I thought I tried to play a little bit more guitar with him, but he was too good. Yeah, he's a genius. He's pretty good.
Give yourself another couple weeks of getting back on the guitar, and I think you'll be up.
Don't
You'll
hit
be up.
myself on the head with the guitar and it'll sink in.
I wish it worked that way. I wish.
Life is pretty cool. I'm very happy.
Yes, absolutely. And Lou, I guess the next questions is what comes next for this movie? We were the Colorado premiere. Do you know where this film is headed to next? Will it get theatrical release?
It's going to go wherever they accept it. I don't know, but it's a growing attention. Yeah, so I think it's going to head down into the Latin countries. I think they're going to discover
Mm.
this wonderful song and these people who immigrated from a Latin country to America. It's time for their word and their thoughts and their dreams to be included in the American society. So they have something for them. They have a movie they can identify with. I
Yeah.
sure can identify with them.
Well, and I agree because this movie also one of the other messages too is it's a story of immigrants. It's a film about immigrants.
That's America.
Yeah.
America. The American Indian was the first immigrant. They came up my way to the North Pole. So I don't know who was here first, but once we get here, we're immigrants, all of
Mm.
us.
Yeah, it's a true and I like that the way this movie approaches that storyline. It doesn't hit you over the head with it. It doesn't want to, shove it in your face. It's just organically part of being a
Beautifully,
story.
beautifully written.
Yeah.
It's made it a nice thing for us to do.
Yes.
It ended too soon.
Yeah, it's but I think lengthwise the pacing was always it was great. When you saw the final film, how did you feel about it?
I
Was
was
there
very
anything?
satisfied. I didn't want it to be over.
Yeah.
We shot it in a town in Canada where the original maple syrup comes straight out of the tree. What a difference from the stuff coming straight out of the tree and the one you get in the supermarket. I have a maple syrup addict there. Give me some more of that. It was a great little town.
Yeah. Fantastic. Now, got another question coming in from some listeners right now. Uh, your favorite type of music? Obviously, you've written music. You love jazz. What's your favorite?
My favorite is jazz. My
Jazz.
favorite was foreplay. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a group. Well, look at foreplay and you'll see what I'm talking about. But now more music is happening with some of the John Legend. Now I like him a lot, and so now more music is coming to get me. And John Legend is one. Foreplay will always be that way,
Mhm.
and a couple of other people. I love music. I can't live without it.
Yeah.
Jazz, can't live without it. Soft, vocal, it doesn't matter. Very
Yeah.
important.
And sometimes I feel like jazz can be a lot like being an actor because it depends so much on emotion and what you're feeling. It's never
Yeah.
written exactly the way you play it.
All good. So that's my campus, New York University, Greenwich Village. So I get to know intimately all those great Miles Davises and the Coltrane's and all those particular people. I grew up with them and I followed them around. Great teachers.
And you got to learn from those great teachers as well, no matter if they're standing at the front of a classroom or standing at the front of a stage. Those
Or
great,
on a street corner somewhere.
or on a street corner somewhere.
Yeah, but they were great. They're great.
Great, 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 great. So you were in Breckenridge for the film festival maybe a couple years ago,
Yes, I was. Yeah.
were you? Great.
Hmm.
So it's great to have you back in town. And I'm not sure what were you here promoting at the time.
Let me see. This is a couple of years ago. So it could have been Bigstown, maybe. Enemy Mine. I think it might have been Enemy Mine.
Ah,
I played another character from another planet. Somebody who had 5 hours of makeup. It's and with Dennis Quaid. Yeah,
I was gonna say with Dennis Quaid, right? Yeah.
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
A great film. Now, how does a film like that, where there's so much production, how does it compare to one like the Cuban, where not as much costuming, not as much everything? Do you still approach it the same way, or?
Well, it depends. Each one has its own set of rules and set of challenges. You've got to fashion yourself to get the best job out of what's offered to you, what you have to do research on. So with Enemy Mine, I had a lot of research, and I had to go study with a yoga and a ballet dancer to get control of my body, all kinds of different things, because you couldn't see my mouth or eyes. I was makeup completely. So I had to learn how to act through all of that makeup and create somebody that from scratch. So it's a challenge. I like the challenges.
Yeah, well, and obviously, I'm sure everybody at home's also seen Officer and a Gentleman. What were the challenges with that film?
The challenges was physical to begin with. I learned how to do everything but drink the beer and smoke the camels. But those guys, they want to break you completely down and rebuild you. It's a great lesson of love for two men, or for a man and a woman, or a man and a man, that if there is the DI breaking somebody down to create a character that you could risk your life with. That's good friendships. That's good reliance.
Hmm. And so it wasn't just being the hard ass sergeant. It was something more.
Yeah, there's a reason for it. As Richard Gere says, I'll never forget
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now looking ahead to the future, not just with the Cuban, yourself. Any other projects? Any other films coming up?
Coming out. One is called the Foster Boy, about the foster boy crisis, where the money is going not to the child but to the family, and the abuse that's happening. Very much like the Boy Scout abuse thing. The money is going to another cause and not to the children. Very educating. We might speak again on that one when you see it. It's
Right.
called the Foster Boy.
Possible. Any idea when that one is going to be released?
Any minute within the next couple of days.
Oh, really? Coming out immediately?
Yeah. And then there's Matthew Modine and this new kid on the block who's quite exceptional. And then there's a faith-based one called The Reason. And so I've got enough coming out with that, plus the foundation. I gotta get 2 or 3 hours of sleep a day. The time goes really quickly.
Oh, I'll bet. How has it been, with the new limitations on festivals and appearances and everything else? How have things been in the film industry when it comes to releasing movies and knowing when things are going to come out, or if they're even going to hit the theater? Is there any uncertainty there, or do you not try to get worked up on it?
There is uncertainty there, but it's always uncertainty even when that problem didn't exist. There's always this uncertainty. But there's more venues to put it out there now, more ways to put the product out there because of Netflix and Amazon and stuff. There's more of a way to turn that stuff out. So it's a different bunch of rules.
Yeah, and I feel like I've seen that same thing. I mean, you turn on Amazon and they've got a whole list of movies that would be in theaters, but you can get it right there in your living room.
Watch it at home. Watch it at home.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah.
As an actor, I was going to ask, as an actor, do you maybe miss the fact that somebody would go to a theater and go see your movie on a big screen?
I thought I did, but I get them in the supermarkets.
Mm.
I get them on the airplanes. I get them in the streets. I feel much closer to them in the grocery stores because they take the time, once the pandemic is not in place, to shake my hand or to say they saw me last night and they were home in the living room. And they say, thank you for your entertainment. I like that. It's more of a direct response. I like it.
Yeah,
I like
absolutely.
it both, actually.
Well, it almost feels like the way, the world in general is moving, because here we are doing a film festival interview on computers
There you
and
go. Yeah.
bringing it right to people. Yeah, who maybe couldn't make it to Breckenridge, but they can still have the chance to enjoy our film festival and enjoy the chance to hear you talk about the Cuban.
Fantastic.
Great. Well, Lou, thank you again for making time. And like I said, I want to say thank you to everybody for not only the Q&A, but also your performance in the Cuban. Finally, my last question. Do you have, now that you've seen the film, now that you've been away from it for a while, any changes, any regrets, anything that you would have done differently?
No, there's nothing. I looked at it with a fine tooth comb. I wish I could have played the guitar better, but I wasn't prepared. Those guys were really too good, so I couldn't keep up with them.
Mm.
But it made it look like I was playing. So that's good enough.
I, as I was watching it, it's one of those things that as a movie viewer, I always do. I try to, when somebody picks up a guitar or a pair or a drum or a horn, I look at it to see if they actually know what they're doing or if they're just sitting there doing that movement. I could tell that you play guitar.
Right. I knew what I was doing, and I knew where to put the fingers. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Lou, thank you again. We enjoyed having you here, and I think that was all the questions that I had from everyone. So, final thoughts on your one last thing about racism. How can people get involved? How can people
EracismFoundation.org.
racismfoundation.org.
I'm going to sell it to somebody like the NAACP, who does better organizing than I do, but I'll still be the spokesperson. Because it's the philosophy I'm trying to sell. The more we think about that, the better I think we all will be.
Fantastic. So racismfoundation.org, go check it out. And of course, hopefully you've seen the Cuban already, but if not, at home, check out the Cuban.
Por favor.
Gracias. Well, Lou, thank you again. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Adios, amigo. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.